What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Flow Bash channel. My name is Eric. Yes, I'm very hot and sweaty and I'm wearing gloves, but today I'm gonna show you guys how to install the Power Pole micro anchor onto your kayak. So the kayak that I'm installing this on today here is a Bonafide SS127, and there is something to note on this. It already comes drilled to mount the Power Pole Micro. Now, not every kayak comes drilled to mount the Power Pole Micro, and I know some Jacksons and Hobies come with that as well, but if yours doesn't, do not worry. There's plenty of how-tos on how to actually make it mount to the back of your kayak. You do have to have a flat surface. You may have to incorporate a piece of wood. I'm not gonna show you that in this video, unfortunately, but there are plenty of how-tos out here on how to do it. So don't be alarmed, you can still do this. I'm gonna show you my kayak. It's going to be bolting it up, running the wires and things like that, and getting it all set up. All right, guys, so I have everything laid out here in the rear deck of my kayak. Now, something to know, I am using the wireless battery on this, so I will be omitting the use of this power cord and the use of this fuse right here. So I'm going to get this out of the way, but I'm going to leave my power cord here because it's holding my hardware and it's keeping everything, you know, nice and contained right here. Now let's go over the tools that you're going to need for this installation. Now keep in mind, not all of these tools are going to be required depending on your installation. The first thing you're going to need is an electric drill. You'll also need with that a 5/16 drill bit and a 1/8 drill bit. That's if you don't have pre-drilled or pre-threaded holes for the Power Pole anchor. Next up, if you purchase the remote battery, you'll need a 5/32 Allen wrench. This will actually be included with that. And then you will also need a 1/4 inch Allen wrench. This will be included with the hardware of the Power Pole anchor. You'll also need to be purchasing some separate hardware if you already have pre-threaded holes in your kayak. So it's always good to have some extra Allen wrenches on hand because you never know what size you are going to need. Next up, if you don't have those pre-drilled holes, you'll need some type of marking device. So you can use a pen or a permanent marker, or if you're feeling extra advantageous, you can use a center punch. That would be fine as well. You're also going to need a Phillips head screwdriver. Also, you want on hand some wire cutters, wire strippers, and crimpers. One of these all-in-one tools works absolutely fantastic. Next up, you are going to want to purchase some thread locker. You always want to put this on all of your fasteners, no matter what you're using, just in case you don't want them to back out when you're on the water. Then depending on your mounting, you're going to want to have some marine adhesive sealant, especially if you're going to mount transom mounted. You want to have this on your holes that are close to or touching the water line, just so you don't have water getting into your hull. And that's basically it. Now, if you are installing this on a Bonafide kayak that is pre-drilled for the Power Pole Micro, you will learn that you cannot use the factory hardware that comes with the Power Pole Micro. You're gonna have to buy some additional hardware. What you're going to need to purchase is a 1/4-20 by 3/4 bolt. 1/4 meaning that is the diameter of the bolt. 20 is the number of threads within 1 inch. And then 3/4 is the overall length of this bolt. And I highly recommend purchasing hardware that uses an Allen wrench. The reason being is that you will be able to tighten this down much better than using a bolt that uses, let's say, a Phillips head screwdriver. And also this fits much cleaner inside the holes of the bracket. All right, so here's where all the fun begins for those who don't have the pre-threaded holes in your kayak. You want to go ahead and figure out where you're going to make your cut so you can access the stern of your boat, so you can get up underneath. And that's when you take your mount. Remember, the holes are going to face aft. It needs to be 4 inches from the water line. So you need to get your tape measure, figure out where you're going to position it, go ahead, mark all 4 of your holes, and then you use the 5/16 drill bit as your pilot, step up to the 1/8, and then you go ahead and take the factory hardware that comes with it. It's going to be one of these long bolts. You take a washer and a nut, slide the bolt through, and then you have to access underneath, put the washer on, and then as well as the nut. And don't forget, you want to use thread locker on this before you go ahead and tighten it down. These are actually lock nuts, but trust me, you want to use thread locker. You don't want anything coming loose on the water. It's always better to err on the side of caution in this particular instance. Now, those with a Bonafide, you basically want to take that hardware that I showed you need earlier, go ahead and apply your thread locker. Whoa, don't let it drip all over the place like I just did. That's why we wear gloves. You only need 1 drop per bolt. You don't have to be generous with it. Then you go ahead, drop it down in the hole. Still got some of my gloves. And you're gonna do this with each bolt. Go ahead and lock these down. Make sure it is hand tight. You don't wanna over tighten it. You don't wanna strip out these threaded inserts that are in your boat, because if you have to replace one of these, you are not going to have fun. Trust me, guys, you definitely don't wanna do that. So just hand tight, take it easy, and once they're all locked down, continue on to the next step. So now we've got our mount in place. We've confirmed it's locked down. It's not going anywhere. It's nice and tight. Now we can start to make this actually look like something. So go ahead, take the micro anchor and slide it into place just like so. And then you want to just keep your hand on this, hold it in place. And then you want to take the locking hex nuts right here and then just orient them in just like this. You can just press them in. They're not going to go anywhere. Do that again for the other side. Then take your quick release bolt, go ahead and slide that through. Now it really doesn't matter what side. You could do it on this side or the other side. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you. So go ahead, and you might have to just wiggle this around a little bit so the holes line up. It pushes through the other side. Get everything lined up. And now you can let go, hands free. It's gonna stay in place. Now looking at the opposite side, you want to take the lock nut. Now there is a specific position. You could see this orientation with the holes is going to face outside. The smooth side, it's what's going to directly contact the locking hex nut right here. So let's go ahead, orient it to the correct way, and just start spinning it on. Again, you don't wanna go too crazy with this. You just wanna start tightening it down, just paying attention, making sure it's not too tight. Now coming back over to this side, we're still tightening the lock nut down here, and then we're testing the quick release bolt to see how much tension it is. Again, you don't want this to be too tight, so right there might be maybe a little bit tighter just for my personal preference. So I'm tightening it down with this hand. All right, that feels pretty good. Definitely not going anywhere, so I'm happy with that. I'm not going to be using the quick release, so this is it. This is it for me. All right, now we can start thinking about giving some power to this baby. So first off, what you wanna do before you go ahead and plug in the power cord directly to the unit, you wanna look at, where is it? There it is. You wanna go to this end of your cord. Now again, I'm omitting this step, but I'm gonna show you what to do anyways. So for the red terminal right here, you wanna take this butt connector that comes included in the kit. You're gonna go ahead, slide that on. You're going to crimp it to the power cord, and then on this other end, you are going to crimp this end, or you're gonna crimp it to this end of the fuse holder right here. So it's already kind of pre-sliced, so you can just peel this end off if you want to, just like that. I would actually strip the wires a little bit further so there's more connection, and then go ahead, crimp it to the other end, so it will look something like this. On the other end of your power cable, you have this black wire. This is gonna be your ground. So you take this little eye connector right here, you're gonna go ahead, crimp that down and use your heat gun to solder all these connections. It'll shrink the tubing so it'll have a nice watertight connection. And then this is gonna go ahead and connect to your negative battery post. And then the very last thing you're gonna wanna do is come to your fuse holder. You're gonna see it already has a connection made here. This is going to go to your positive power. So if you have a kayak that doesn't have a battery cutoff switch or anything, this is gonna go directly to the positive terminal. Again, remember this is all 12 volt if I didn't mention that earlier. So this goes either to the positive terminal, or if you actually do have a battery cutoff switch, it's gonna go directly to that. So this way when the switch is off, no power is running to the system, and then when it's on, that's when you'll have your 12 volt power. Once all that's complete, go ahead, pop the dust cover off of your power cable, and if you look inside this right here, you see that little T? Well, the T is going to be facing upright, just like the leather T, and then plug it in. You are good to go, you've got power. All right, so for those of you who are going to use the battery with your power pole, what you're gonna wanna go ahead and do is take your bracket. It comes with the hardware loosely installed, but since we're using Loctite, you're gonna wanna go ahead, remove this, and then reinstall the bolts back in here loosely so you have some play like this. All right, so we've got our thread locker on here, and the rest is real simple. You just spread it apart just a little bit, and it should slide up and under here, just like that. And clamp it down, make sure everything is nice and flush. We go ahead, we take our Allen wrench, and just tighten it down. I like to do it this way first, just by hand. Makes it nice and quick. All right, I can feel that starting to get tight, so flip this baby around, get in there, make sure it's in there, there's no movement, so you're not stripping out anything, you're not rounding out the bolts. And this is just hand tight. Again, we've got thread locker on there, so we don't have to go ham sandwich on this at all. Spinning around. Okay, it's starting to get tight. And I think that's going to be it for that one. Okay, that's all hand tight. Definitely, again, make sure it's hand tight. Don't go crazy. You don't want to crack any of the plastic. That would just be absolutely bad news. All right, so now we're ready to take our battery. It comes with dielectric grease installed here, so that's perfect. And again, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory which way this is going to go. Now, something to note here, these tabs, you have to press them in and they're going to lock into these holes right here. They don't go on the outside, they go inside right here. So just something to keep in mind. So we're going to press the tabs down, and when we push this in, we should hear a nice audible click, knowing it's locked in place. And let's go. You can always just start one side first. That always makes it easier. And then push the other side. Just like that. Heard the click, we're good to go. I got my green light flashing, so we've got power. All right, so before we get into anything, let's first go ahead and just confirm operation of the motor. You can just press the up and down buttons right here. We can hear a very audible noise coming from the motor, so we know this baby is working. Now, your remotes should already be paired from the factory. It's very easy to confirm, just press up and down, and obviously we heard the motor operate, so that's good. And then we can check the little neck remote as well. Good to go. Both of these are working. For whatever reason, if either of these remotes did not come paired from the factory, they lost their pairing, whatever the case may be, do not worry. All you have to do is go right to this little orange button right here in the center. It's the oval button. You hold this for 6 seconds or less in my case, and this little green light will flash and become solid. All you have to do then is take one remote, press up or down, hold it until you hear the motor start to operate. I did in that case. Again, just confirm, down, up, and we're good to go. Again, same thing for the neck remote, or the handheld remote if you want to call it. We're gonna hold the program button up to 6 seconds. See, it was less for me. The green light is now lit, and again, you just hold either up or down. It pairs, you can hear the motor operating. Just test down, good to go. Now we've got both remotes paired, it's 100% good to go. All right guys, so installation was pretty easy. Of course, you know, I am using the wireless setup, I've got the battery and everything, so it definitely makes things much more easy. But even if you have to wire it up to, you know, a battery or battery cutoff switch, drill the holes and everything, I really don't think it's that hard. You just got to get over the fear of drilling into your kayak. There's a lot of videos on YouTube of people doing that, so if you want to gain a little bit more confidence, definitely check those videos out. And there is one last thing. You got to install your deck switch. Now, there's a lot of places to put it. I definitely recommend not putting it somewhere like right here on the gunnel. You don't want to kick this thing getting in and out of the kayak. You want to find a nice out-of-the-way spot. So I've actually got a nice spot right here, and it should work out quite nicely in this location. Now guys, installing the deck switch is not necessary. You can just rely on your little, you know, lanyard and neck remote if you want to. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to put the deck switch on there. I'm going to do it because I just like having all the buttons. Now what you want to do is you want to find the little plastic package that comes with 2 little screws with this guy. Now, guys, we're drilling into plastic, so you don't really need to make any pilot holes with these small screws. If you want to, that's great, but it's really not necessary. And also, we don't need Loctite for this. Now, guys, I know that might be common sense to some people, but hey, we all don't start out at master technician status, so just so you know, Loctite will not be necessary when drilling in to, directly into the plastic. So get your electric drill, obviously you need a Phillips head bit. Line this baby up where you think it's going to be out of the way and in a good orientation. So you go slow, make sure you push nice and firm. And it will start to go in. Now I know my tools, so I know how hard and how soft to push and and what frequency. So just go slow, guys. Slower the better, to be honest with you. So we've got the top hole, and that seems pretty firm. So the reason I like to do the top hole first is because if it's, you just have to make sure it's in the right area. If, it ends up like this, you can just turn it, make sure it's perfectly parallel or as close to whatever you think looks the best. I mean, again, this is your kayak. You can, if you wanted to mount it like that, by all means. But for me, I'm gonna do it the traditional way, I guess you could say. So, right. Yep, that looks good for me. I'm just gonna go nice and slow. The point of the screw is gonna create the pilot hole and then drill the rest of the way in. It may take a little bit, as you saw with the top one. You know what? Just gonna ramp the clutch down just because. Okay, that is definitely, that's on there. It's not going anywhere. I'm really happy with the position. It doesn't, it's nice and protected. It's not in the way of anything, so good to go. All right, guys, so there's only one thing left to do. As you can see, I backed her out just behind the garage, so the pole clears the roof right there. And we're just gonna double check the operation. So I'm gonna run through all 3 modes of operation, or I guess sources, or whatever you wanna call it. I'm gonna test the switches right here. I'm gonna test right here. And then coming up into the front, I've got my little remote right here. We are going to test all 3 just to make sure everything is just 100% okay before we get out there on the water and encounter a problem. We can solve it right here. All right, so starting right here, we're gonna test the down operation. You can either hold this down or you can double click and the pole will go all the way down for you. So I'm gonna double click it. All right, that looked good. Now we are going to go up. Booyah. All right, so double click. All right, perfect. Double click up. There we go. And last but not least, we've got the deck switch. So going down, double click for up. Now you may have seen the operation when I hit the deck switch, it was actually slower. You can program the deck switch to adjust the speed of how fast and slow the spike goes up and down. So this little button right here kind of looks like a speedometer, controls the speed of the spike. So if we hit it once right here, you can see those lights are blinking kind of slow. Hit it again, a little bit faster, hit it one more time, fastest operation. Let's check out and see what that looks like. Yeah, it goes down like a rocket on the fastest speed. So that's just something you got to play with when you're out in the water, see what you like the most. If you're in an area where the fish are real spooky, maybe you're fishing flood tides for redfish. Those fish are super spooky. You want it to go as slow as quiet as possible and then just experiment from there. All right guys, so that is how you install the PowerPole Micro on any kayak. I know if you have a bona fide, it'll be extra easy to follow these instructions, but even if you have a kayak where you have to drill or do any cutting, definitely, I know you guys can do it. I covered a lot of those topics in this video, and again, there's those other videos that are out there where it shows people drilling into their kayaks or the hulls of their small boats, and you can check those out too. But if you have any questions on anything you've seen in this video or anything that I've said, definitely drop it in the comments below. I will 100% answer any questions that you have, whether you have to drill or cut or anything, just let me know. So guys, my name's Eric, this is the Flow Bass channel. Thank you so much for watching this video. I got some more install videos coming on this kayak, so stay tuned. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.